right, and here we go into the second of two videos that I have to do for Marsha and Ozzy, this being the interior search. So we took a look at the exterior and saw some things there. We're going to take a look at the interiors and see if there are things that are consistent patterns with this team, or new information, or information that is here that will help us understand parts from the exterior, and vice versa. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Here we go. We have a small interior space, kind of typical for an NW2 type search. I was, as you know, a judge at this venue, but I did not judge this particular leg of it, being the interiors. I can tell you that the very first thing that caught my attention when I came into this space to observe Dog in White is, of course, this right here. Folding chairs don't belong in bathrooms. I guess there is a time in the world where there may be a folding chair naturally in a bathroom, but I can tell you this. If it was my team searching and I walked into that space and I saw a folding chair sitting inside the door of a bathroom, I'm probably going to make sure that I check that first, because to begin with, I think that we should, as I've said before, check the first hard item that we encounter at the beginning of every search anyway, but it's a random metal folding chair in an interior space. Let's get started. And there we go. So there's an example of our dog not checking first box first, or first chair first, or first whatever happens to be first. Thing number two is, I know that in the second half of your interior search, you run this offline. I actually think this is a better option for your offline search. I get it that the door is open, and that's a little bit troubling. And I don't even know if you guys were given offline option in this room, but this is more of the offline to me than the second room. Next thing in regards to line choices is that if you're going to be on a long line, use the long line. If you're not going to go ahead and insist that dog checks first box first and you're just going to hold the leash, then why are you inside the space at all? There's no reason for you to come past this current location. Just feed that leash out. Good. I'm glad to see you holding up right there. Perfect. You're using the full extent of the leash. Now, hopefully the dog will practice some canine search intelligence and go ahead and investigate the items of value in here. So when I say items and value in here, what does that mean to me? Hey, I would want to know if whether there's something under here. I think that this is a little high for an NW2, but there could certainly be things underneath of here. The trash can, the water closet, the paper holder, the seams, and yes, the random metal chair. I want to see if my dog is going to investigate those things. I want to see my dog check them. And if they're not checked, I'm going to make sure they get checked. Right. Let's see what happens. Not much getting checked. Okay. The diaper thing is checked. The paper rack is checked. And now the chair is checked. Okay. That brings me to the next note. And I did make myself an indication on this. I can see that your dog does show change in behavior here. But, we have this very, and it's not unusual, this loving looking behavior, very, very common. You're looking back, all that kind of stuff. Very, very typical and inherently ingrained in many of the foundation training through some folks, not mine, but some folks' standards. And also what bothers me is the proximity from odor to dog. That troubles me a little bit. I'm going to get into that some more here in a second. You're not ready to call it, so instead of just sending the dog back, you come into the space. Glad to see you backing up. That's very good. That's very good indeed. But again, dog looking at you, so you're not convinced. There you go. All right, good job, and you get the alert. So what I want to say about that is it's actually a question. And you don't have to answer it. It's just something for you to contemplate. Whether you are a clicker trainer or not, that doesn't matter. It is very possible that in a sport where we are required to call our alerts, meaning to say alert, oftentimes the dogs become audibly cued. And so if you are frequently calling your alerts away from your dog, okay, so let's say what I'm saying is, let's say you're in this position and your dog you feel like is in odor. I would encourage you in training to not say anything from here. I would also not put my hand in my pocket and index that reward. I would instead encourage the dog to stay on odor as it is. I would want you to step in and offer the reward to your dog at the same time as you are saying alert. And so, what I'm doing is in that process, I'm trying to prevent the dog coming off of odor like he does there and like he does here, right? So if you are in a habit during training of calling alert from a distance, then once the dog gets into this habit that once they encounter odor, they're going to come back to you for reward. And so it is important, certainly, to pay at source, but you've actually taken the focus off of odor once you call alert in that situation. Opposingly, what I'm recommending or prescribing is having the dog here. You keep your hand out of your pocket as you are about to do here, and go ahead and step into the dog and be rewarding the dog at the same time as saying alert. Hopefully what I'm saying there makes sense, and then hopefully you can also see, once again, here's another example of the value of checking first box first. Because you know what? If, let's say it was over here or over here, you would have got there, and you would have got there in the same amount of time it took you before, practically within seconds. Right. I think you get that. So there's that. I do like that you stay outside the room and allow that leash to do its job. Very smart. If you're gonna, but yeah, we'll talk about that more in the second room. So really good job there with your leash. And I see that the dog is checking a couple of things. I see that you open your shoulder up a little bit and create a little bit of space. But I also do see that evidence of the audible marking on cue. And, because we just can't get dog to stick to odor, he keeps wanting to come back to you. And that forces you to do all this other stuff. Also, by the way, let's watch the timing on that. Look at your hand. Look at your hand. Look at your hand. Dog is coming back to you for odor. Right. Okay, good. Very good. Here comes the second room. Now, I know that we do this one offline. And again, and you don't need certainly to answer, but my question to you would be, why? Why are we doing this search offline? If you feel like the dog can come in here and search this room effectively and efficiently offline, then that is great. But if we look at the downsides of being online, none of them actually exist here. The logistics of handling the line, leash control, all that kind of stuff. This is a really nice, simple room. So let's let it play a little. Here we go. We cut the dog loose. And that is why I say why offline. Because the dog isn't actually searching anything here. And you don't have a leash attached to you. And I don't know if you practice mindful search methods like presenting, casting, body pressure, stuff like that. But you're not getting anything searched, still not getting anything searched, still not getting anything searched, still not getting anything searched. All right, so we're about to get some stuff searched, and we are, gosh, let's see here. That's 39, it's 40. All right, so then you step off, and hopefully we get the dog engaged now. Still not searching. Right. So there, right there, like 20 seconds into the situation, you go ahead and use your body, which is appropriate, to get the dog into some spaces. The downside is, well, two downsides. One is it took us that long to do it. But secondly, um, now you're in that space. So if there is a hide back in here, you are with your body disrupting it. It would be preferable if the dog led into that space as opposed to you. And that is why in training, it can be very valuable to work on things like casting. Um, the dog's nose should be the tip of the spear whenever possible. Okay. Next thing is I can tell you just from watching the dog in white just the one time. I didn't judge this event, but um, I can tell you from what I saw is once again we had an odor that was behaving inaccessible. Um, I don't know exactly where it was. I know that it wasn't the CO's intent for it to behave inaccessible, but just like the wheelbarrow, it is in fact doing so just through some minor adjustments that, again, I know weren't intentional, but doesn't change the fact that they were. We're going to see Ozzy go into some. Now, he still hasn't done anything with odor, but we haven't really searched yet. We're still not searching. Now we're searching. No, we're not. Come on, buddy, let's get to work. So it's when I see all this stuff that I ask the question, why are we offline? Because we're we spent a little bit of time in here and we haven't really searched much. I feel like we've done some of this back in here, but that's about it. No changes. Oh, there we go. Change in behavior. Now the dog is in odor. All right, so let's take a look at this bracketing behavior. We'll play it out, and then we'll check back. Bracketing, bracketing. That's all bracketing. All right. I'm going to point out some interesting things to you here in a moment. Still bracketing. It's inaccessible behavior is what it is. All right, so you go ahead and call it, and congratulations to you for doing so. Congratulations to you for finding both of those hides and those interiors. That's all very lovely, and I definitely don't want to take anything away from your success. But I do want to show you, this is what inaccessible bracketing behavior looks like. Dog catches odor, can't source it on that edge, so attempts to find source, which is desirable behavior. Basically, what the dog has done is drawn you brackets and said it's somewhere between here and here, which hopefully would tell you that means it's on this cart. Most judges are going to give that entire cart to you anyway. Not all, but most. And we see the dog drawing the brackets. Is it up? There's the left edge. Here comes the right edge again. Now, here's two things that happened. One is, for whatever reason, you decide to come around and it takes briefly the dog's attention away from the odor and the dog comes right back to you again. So that's that coming to you for reward thing that we had talked before. See how he comes to you? He doesn't get paid, even though you do have your hand in your pocket already. He's checking up. See how quickly he looks back at you again? I'm checking up. I'm in odor. I look at you because I want to see that you're coming to pay me. This is an example of a dog who cannot reach source. Had the dog been able to reach source, he would have hit that point and then looked back at you. But he can't. That intensity of sniffing is very good. Now, also, you call alert out here. And as soon as you do, dog comes off, which again tells me that that's probably consistent behavior, that you're calling alert away from the dog regularly. I would I would probably prescribe or recommend to you that you modify that some, or at least modulate it some so that it's not always the same and the dog doesn't have an anticipation of that. Um, so let me just hit the cup. Okay, so I hadn't mentioned search intelligence yet. Um, what steps are you taking in your training to teach the dog the places that it should be investigating? And to do so will require some leash work. That's why it's called training. If in your training you are teaching your dog certain skills and certain methodologies, and certainly it's your expectations for an appropriate search and good search behavior, you're going to need that leash attached a little bit. And what you'll find is it increases your leash skills. And there's a variety of training methodologies I could prescribe to you, but the gist of it sort of fast is if you find yourself in a situation where online your dog comes in and just does a really nice, intelligent search on its own, and you're finding that there's very little leash input or direction from you, it is at that point you might consider cutting offline because you can now take advantage of the offline benefits. But if you are running offline and find that your dog just kind of comes here and just kind of meanders about, then it would seem that that team is not quite ready to be offline. Now, oftentimes it's at this point that people argue to me that the dog knows where the odor is, and being online, I'm just going to mess it up. All right. So let's look at that realistically, scientifically, all that kind of stuff. Take the mysticism out of odor because the truth is there is no mysticism in it. It's just science, it's biology. Did the dog have odor from the beginning? No, it did not. Because if it did, it would have gone to odor and gotten a cookie. So there's the first myth busted. Nope, there's not odor at the front of the room. If that were the case, why did the dog do all this other stuff and even go so far as to run past it and run back and run around in circles? Dogs are efficient creatures by nature. And if the dog had encountered odor and understood it to be target odor, then it would have gone straight to odor. Secondly, we see that the dog's odor threshold is not in such a point as it can from these locations. I mean, look how close we are, right? The dog's odor threshold is not such that um, it supports that. Thing number two, I often encourage people to check whenever possible in two directions. Why? Because of this right here. Nope, nothing. And then let's get round here. Let's watch the dog do it from this angle. Something. Okay, but how can you manage understanding that you're checking things in two different directions when the search pattern is, the search pattern that we had in this experience? So there you go. That's what I see about that. I see some opportunity for a little bit of search intelligence growth here. I definitely encourage you taking a look at inaccessibles. Now, we're not supposed to be seeing inaccessibles at NW2. That is true. However, the best of intentions being what they are, in just the two videos that I've looked at for you today, exteriors and interiors, you have seen two odors that are behaving inaccessibly. Wasn't intentional, but it happens. So that's something that you should be aware of. I'm not saying get super proficient at it right now, but I am saying it might be valuable to at least understand what they look like, so that you can make those calls confidently and they not be a guess. Take a good, hard, honest look at whether or not you're audibly marking your hides from a distance, which ends up creating that dog leaving odor for a reward situation that it appears to be going on. I could be wrong about that, but that's what it appears to be going. And let's take a good hard look at your leash choices. Why are you choosing to be off leash at which times? Are you making these decisions based on good hard data, training, and experience, or are you just saying, I'm running offline because I can? And just taking the time to consider that can make a substantial difference as to how you treat um, that choice, right? So there you go. That's what I think about that. Congratulations once again on your success of finding both of those hides. Congratulations on your success in general for the trial and particularly at this interior. Good for you. I'm glad that you got them. And thanks again very much for sharing these videos with me. I know that it can be a little hard to do to have somebody look at your searches, after the fact. So, but hopefully I've been able to come up with some information that is valuable to you. If you have any questions at all about anything that I've said in here, if I didn't make something clear or I confused anything, talk too fast, or perhaps you want to just write back and say, I did this because, or whatever. That's totally fine. You know how to email me, and I will respond to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much, and it was good to see you. Look forward to seeing you again soon.